now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers at this morning. Let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Good morning, Charles. Welcome to the last working day of the week.
Thank God it's Friday.
Oh, I know. Good morning to Nkechi and Yolanda.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good to see you both.
Likewise. Same here.
Okay, to look at the papers with us today, we have Eniola Akinkuotu. He is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Hello there and welcome to the program. Let's start with this day newspaper. There we have IMF confirms Nigeria has repaid $3.4 billion loans, but expected to pay $30 million in special drawing rights annually. The $3.4 billion emergency loan that has been fully repaid was secured in 2020 to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and a drop in oil prices. However, special drawing rights charges of about $30 million annually is outstanding. The other explanations here are quite technical, so we'll leave them out. But the bottom line is that there's still money to be paid, and this story was big news yesterday that Nigeria has been removed from a list of over 90 debtor countries of the International Monetary Fund. Now we have the full story. I don't even know why it's a big deal. Eniola, what do you make of this article or news item?
I mean, being able to repay your debts is always a good achievement. Remember that when Olusegun Obasanjo cleared most of Nigeria's debts to the Paris Club in 2005 too, it was celebrated. So same thing here. It just shows that there's confidence, you know, it attracts confidence to the Nigerian economy. That's all it does. Recall that these loans were taken during COVID-19 when countries across the world were all facing one sort of economic crisis or the other. Besides that, Nigeria has not really been owing IMF really, because IMF usually issues loans to countries that are in economic distress, you know, where they give you conditions that you need to devalue your currency, you need to maybe cut down your civil service size, etc., public service, public sector and all that. So, I mean, usually we do not take from IMF. What we take from most times is the World Bank. And we're expecting to take more loans again from World Bank soon. I think I've forgotten the figure, but it's quite a high number, high amount of money.
So there are other debt.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Well, I think I would agree with Mr. Akinkuotu too. This sort of signals to the international financial system fiscal discipline in Nigeria, and I think the government would definitely tout this as we're showing fiscal discipline. We're showing that when the chips are down, Nigeria can actually stick to its words. And with regards to the $30 million special drawing rights, it's just like a fancy international reserve assets that act like overdraft fees for countries. So I think, yeah, I understand why it's a big deal, right, to be able to pay off your debts. However, we now have to move on to the next chapter. We have to find those buffers. We have to move from survival to sustainable growth, like Akinkuotu said.
Nkechi, the IMF expert, thank you for explaining that technical bit. I wanted to jump over it,
welcome.
But, you know, good. Okay, let's move on to Vanguard newspaper. 2027, disquiet as APGA Soludo adopt Tinubu. APGA committed to Tinubu's re-election, Bianca Ojukwu. Of course, she will be when she was appointed Minister of State for Foreign Affairs by the President. Adopting Tinubu perfidious, says Chekwas Okorie. The president was in Anambra to commission some projects. There's a photo there at the bottom where he is with the Anambra State Governor and the National Security Advisor. I mean, the APC wind and broom has arrived the southeast. Eniola, how far-reaching do you think APC's political machinations in this region will go?
You know, last year, when the president appointed Bianca Ojukwu as the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, you know, it kind of showed us that, look, something was in the offing. And now that Soludo has given him the endorsement for 2027, that's helped, the president, at least get if not a foothold, at least a toehold in Anambra State, where he got just less than 1.5% of the votes in the last election. And you remember that Peter Obi scored nearly 90% of the votes there. So that place is a place that the president has been trying to get into, and this is a big achievement for them. Of course, it shows that most likely the president is going to support Soludo for re-election in November, and Soludo will pay back the favor in 2027. That means also that the APC governorship candidate, that's Ukachukwu, I would advise him not to waste his money, sincerely speaking. Don't waste your money. You spend 50 million naira buying form, you spend billions again campaigning. There's no point. The president has already showed his hand. He called Soludo solution yesterday. And Valentine Uzigbo, who has gone to court, he has assembled senior advocates, spending hundreds of millions of naira, trying to, win back the APC ticket. I think he should just give it a rest. They've shown that, look, the president's re-election in 2027 is more important than the governorship ambition of any APC candidate come November 5.
Although you do know that an adoption in this region doesn't necessarily translate to humongous votes. Although I think the target is at least let me get my 25%. That's the deal they had with the former governor of Anambra State, for instance. Yes.
Can I add something? Okay, so there is no guarantee that Tinubu is going to win Anambra come 2027, especially if Peter Obi is on the ballot. But you see that Obi's party has been in crisis for such a long time. And if the people see that he has no realistic pathway to the presidency, most likely they will just vote for Tinubu in 2027. Don't forget that Obasanjo defeated Ojukwu in Anambra State in 2003. So it all depends on how the opposition plays their cards. But if they're saying that Obi has no realistic pathway to the presidency in 2027, at most what you will see is that maybe there will just be a low voter turnout. Most people will not come out to vote, and the Tinubu's people will just have the day.
Well, let's not compare Obasanjo to Tinubu, because Obasanjo was in PDP. PDP is the mainstream party, and most Southeasterners are essentially PDP. Anyway, we don't have time to expatiate on that. Let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. Assembly crisis. House of Reps issues Benue Zamfara governors a week ultimatum. These governors are expected to appear before the House of Representatives following crisis in their state assemblies that have paralyzed legislative activities. These crises have lasted over a year, and the panel in charge want an accelerated hearing and a resolution. I mean, Charles, left to the governors, they'll probably continue their antics, but you cannot, run a state without a functioning legislature. Hence, this intervention is being viewed as necessary.
Well, I wonder where the dysfunction is in the state legislatures. They did suspend some of their members, just like the Senate has also suspended one of its key members. Well,
they're not sitting because 11 and 13 members,
they don't form. They don't form a quorum.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, the governors are also being very defiant here, and I am seeing a situation where they will actually attempt to pit the Governors Forum against the National Assembly. So it's going to be much more than the drama of the House of Representatives inviting the governors of Benue and Zamfara states to appear before then. But what I'm also waiting to see is the consequence of the two governors defying the National Assembly for a second time. Like I said, it is also going to be an issue that will involve the Governors Forum, because what affects one affects all ultimately.
All right, we'll see how that plays out, bubbling out there. Daily Independent, Tinubu promises to review real master plan that bypassed Anambra. While still on the president's visit to Anambra, while he's shopping for votes, he's also making promises in exchange. Here, I think, well, this topic highlights the cries of marginalization by the region. and how it has been excluded from major projects by the APC government, particularly starting from former President Muhammadu Buhari, who could not hide his disdain for the Southeast, even when he was supposed to be a president for Nigeria. I think it's a bigger discussion about how political leaders in the country, you cannot be a myopic and provincial leader to run a country such as Nigeria. Yolanda, if you want to come in here.
Yes, sure. I think you're absolutely right. It's really wrong to pick and choose which regions to, give focus on. But I think this promise sheds a positive light in that, this infrastructural development that has been overlooked over a while has now, it's now bringing a positive look, but there's also, the political strategy in it. The promise might be strategic move, to gain favor with a number of voters. And so that also reflects another angle. And as well, you cannot overlook the economic implications of such a move. Improved railway infrastructure could be very helpful in many ways in businesses and in people's day-to-day lives.
And when you think about it, why is it so difficult to connect the entire country by rail? For how many years after independence to resuscitate the rail lines? You can imagine what a rail line from Lagos, connecting to the east will do, and vice versa. I don't know. Every 4 years you have a governor or a president, and they fall short in terms of what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
A lot of lip service has been paid to this rail line thing over the years. It started right from the Abacha regime when he brought in a Chinese consultant to map out a rail system for the nation. But of course, there's also this conspiracy theory that the owners of petrol tankers are raking in lots of money, freighting the product all over the country, and a reversion to the use of rail travel would actually affect their businesses negatively. So sometimes it's as if they're fighting underground to ensure that it doesn't happen.
Convenient
and I wouldn't put it
excuse.
past them at all.
Convenient excuse. I think a government should just do what it needs to do. Let's see New Telegraph this morning. Killings. MBF backs Ty Danjuma's call for self-defense, insists on state police. Let's also pull up Leadership newspaper, where we have, or they're leading with a similar story. There it says, foreign headers behind Benue Plateau killings, excuse me, according to Defense Headquarters. They want to wipe us out ahead of census, says a coalition. So the Middle Belt Forum has added its voice to this topic with its national president, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, saying there's only one way out of the continued bloodshed, which is arming yourselves, as propagated by General Ty Danjuma. Well, I'm not sure what to... Well, I don't know. What are the fresh angles to explore on this story? And your life, you want to come in, because we've been on this every single day for many years here.
The DG of DSS, he delivered a speech. I can't remember the exact event now. I think it had to do with NIPS, an event that was organized by the Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, where he spoke about this issue of self-defense, and he praised it. He supported it wholeheartedly, that look, in communities where the people rose up to defend themselves, you had less recurrence of insecurity there. And same thing that Ty Danjuma has been saying all along, you have to defend yourself. But the governor of Katsina State, I think Dikora, he came out to say no, that it's going to lead to anarchy. So people are asking that, so what should be the alternative? Should we just lay there and just allow ourselves to be killed? It's failure. It shows a failure of the system, actually. And I really don't know what is delaying this whole state police issue. The governors have endorsed it. The bill before the National Assembly is supposed to pass it and then send it to the houses of assembly across the country for concurrence. So I don't know why it's taking so long. But let me also say that the issue of state police, it might not be the panacea that we think it will be. That is one. Secondly, you spoke about some people saying that the headsmen that have been perpetrating the attacks are not Nigerians. that has been established, and that is why the government is pushing for the review of the ECOWAS protocol that has to do with the free movement of individuals and goods. I think they said they're trying to review that. So it's not one approach that's going to solve this. I think we need several approaches in order to attack this menace.
The complication here is that, yes, the herdsmen are not from Nigeria, but they have kinsfolk in Nigeria. They are from the same ethnic group as, the herdsmen that are Nigerian. And so sometimes these international boundaries don't mean anything to some people, because, my brother is across the border in Niger Republic or in Benin Republic or in Senegal, but is still my kinsman anyway. Secondly, the issue of arming communities to defend themselves. Yes, it's a good idea, but then take the example of Benue State, for instance. That actually worked to a large extent, but the moment the menace seemed to have died down, those who were armed now translated into bandits and started using those arms to terrorize local populations. So yes, it's a good idea, but then it has to be managed properly and in a very disciplined manner. Otherwise, it will also backfire. And then, the former Nigerian head of state, General Sani Abacha, did say that if insecurity or any other problem for that matter persists for more than 24 hours, then there is government collusion there.
Well, we're falling back to so many complicated issues, the colonial borders, which has created or sort of create enmity between countries, and then, you have people from the same ethnic group, feeling like we're still the same, even if we're in different countries. It's a difficult one, because you want people to feel like they are one region. We're all Africans, we're all West Africans, so there should be a free movement of people. At the same time, you have this complications coming from this very topic. Okay, let's look at the international headlines. Daily Graphic: government cracks down on unfair trade. The exercise is targeting markets, shops dealing in unfair trade, including non-standardized measurements that has long disadvantaged farmers and traders. On to Citizen newspaper. Mayor on the way out is the big question here. Mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, is facing the chop in the council, even as he plans the rejuvenation of the city at the cost of billions of rands. Then the Times newspaper, excuse me, Roman Catholics in the house, you have a new pope. Yes. In God we trust. New pope is an American, says this headline. Cardinal Robert Prevost of Chicago, 69, is the first American pope. Okay, guys, any comments on the new pope? He's here for you.
Can I say? Yes. Can I say something? Yeah. So this new pope is a progressive. He belongs to the Augustinian order, and I think it's very, very strategic what those cardinals have done, because if you look at the past writings of this particular pope, you see that he's pro-immigration, and he's come out to criticize some of Donald Trump's policies and even J.D. Vance's utterances as recently as just 4 weeks ago. And so, them electing an American pope is very, very strategic, because a pope is not just a spiritual leader, he's also a political leader as well. We saw something like this happen in around 1938 when Pope Pius was elected to. Pope Pius came at the period when the World War II was about to begin. And we saw the role that he played against the Nazis. We saw even after the World War, when there was rise in communism, he was the one who signed the anti-communism declaration too. So a lot of these things are usually strategic. This guy is going to be, countering a lot of the rhetoric of Donald Trump. So it's a sort of Pyrrhic victory. For some Americans, because those who are the Trump supporters, they've been opposing this announcement since yesterday. Since you go on Twitter, you see the conservatives are not happy at all.
Oh, okay. I mean, but when you look at his background, you can also understand his political and philosophical leanings. He's of Spanish and Italian heritage, although he was born in the U.S. Those things count on, somebody's worldview and how they see things, Let's move on to iNewspaper. UK wins global race to shake off worst Trump trade tariffs. This is considered a big win for the car and steel industries, although there are fears the U.S. will continue to push for hormone-treated beef and chlorinated chicken exports. Well, that special relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. has come through for a beleaguered United Kingdom. This trade deal that cuts tariff for British-made products and offers preferential access is being seen as historic. Anyone can jump in here.
Yes, I think I'd like to put in a comment here and just say it's really good to see the world's big dogs, coming to an agreement finally after being at loggerheads for so long. Charles, we were speaking earlier about how this relationship with Donald Trump and Keir Starmer reminded you of
Tony Blair and Bill Clinton.
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes.
Is it really?
No, I mean, well, it's on the road to there because it's on the road to improvement. Because there's been a lot going on in the past months, especially with these tariffs and a lot of, bumping of heads. So it's good to see, if you watch the call earlier in the report between Trump and Keir Starmer, it seems like they're really working towards some solutions. They see that this bumping of heads is not going to get them anywhere.
Okay, we'll have to very briefly, Aniola, because we're out of time. Yeah,
I said the American Automotive Council has already kicked against this deal. Ford, GM, Jeep, and a few others. They're saying that, look, it's going to affect us adversely. And so the victory that Trump is saying he has achieved in this is counterproductive to the U.S. economy.
All right. On that note, we'll have to say, that's what we have for the newspaper review today. Eniola Akinkuotu, Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Always good to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I agree with you, Dr. Constance. Always good to have Mr. Akinkuotu. And thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikoko. Thank God it's Friday. You can go and enjoy your weekend.
Oh,
see you on Monday.
Boogie.
That's all the time we have here on Daybreak. Thanks for watching with us or staying with us. I'm Ikechi Nana.
And I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.